We're back
We're back.
for this Monday, the 48 Laws of Power. And today we're going to talk about Law 39 from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Law 39 is stir up waters to catch fish. Anger and emotion are strategically counterproductive. You must always stay calm and objective. But if you can make your enemies angry while staying calm yourself, you gain a decided advantage. Put your enemies off balance. Find the chink in their vanity through which you can rattle them, and you hold the strings. And that's Law 39, stir up waters to catch fish. Where have you seen that take place? What do you think about this law?
One time, um, I used to work for a Fortune 500 insurance company, and one time there was a meeting. There were a bunch of agents together, and they were changing a program. And one particular agent that was the number one guy in the entire district, maybe even in Southern California. Anyway, it was going to affect him heavily, and he just lost it in the
Mm,
meeting. And I think of that because this law says that you will get a reply from someone that allows anger and emotion to get the best of them. Their reply is going to be disproportionate to the amount of feedback that's given. And unfortunately, this gentleman lost it in the meeting, and he went off the deep end and he started yelling at the person that was making the presentation. And there were a bunch of us there. And, you know, as I look back now, it's very sad, very, very sad.
mm,
And it was a disproportionate reply to what was going on. I mean, it was going to affect all of us.
yeah.
Okay. Uh, the law says, look, don't be so vain in thinking that you are the person that elicited that reply. This is this goes back to previous hurts, previous scars.
It's not personal.
It's not personal. And this outburst is, which is out of control, you know,
Yeah.
it's the manifestation of that, or the beginning of that did not happen in that meeting. This is an ongoing event that has happened in the life of this person, and now they
He's letting
release
it
it.
all out. Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that they show this anger and this emotion, they scream, they shout, it shows how weak they actually
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And so I remember that because that was a professional meeting. We were all with ties and everything, and the ladies very well dressed, business suits and stuff. And there must have been like 40 of us or somewhere around there. And he just lost it in that meeting.
Mm,
And it was very sad to see, you know?
yeah.
So that's what comes to mind initially.
Yeah. Somebody who doesn't have control of their emotions.
Yeah,
Um, It's interesting
it's
because
crazy.
that was something, let's say, the Fortune 500 company did, but it wasn't directly done to that person. It
No,
wasn't like it was something that was being changed in the company, right?
correct.
Um, I was trying to think of a situation where I saw it directly done to somebody. So like I'm intentionally gonna stir up this water, which I'm gonna make you react. Or a situation where somebody makes another person react intentionally to get them off balance, like a direct attack.
Right.
Um, but it's hard. It's hard. It was hard for me to think of something like that. But I will say that this law reminds me of Law 8, which is make other people come to you, use bait if necessary. So Law 8 from the 48 laws is kind of goes hand in hand with this one. This one, though, the way I understood it is you're trying to intentionally get under somebody's skin
Yes,
to make them react. And one of the things that comes to mind is that when you are reactive, you're not in control.
that's a good point.
If I can do something, and that was also in another law. Remember when you answer to somebody's which law was it? When you answer to somebody's, let's say, negative comment about you,
Hmm.
now you're kind of going into
Oh
partnership with
yeah,
them
yeah, that's right.
because you're responding to them. You don't have to respond. Ignore. That was the
Right.
law.
Well,
That was the law. It was to ignore.
this particular law, which is Law 39,
Uh huh.
okay, um, it was saying you can get to the point where you you realize and you see these people reacting emotionally, and you get to the point where you can play with the emotional response of other people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Brutal.
deceptive.
Brutal, man.
That is definitely manipulating.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me in a small um
Can you imagine? You can play with the emotional responses of other people.
yeah. Well,
Wow.
absolutely. Look, we've all done it. I think of, my siblings. I knew what would bother my sister, so I would do that. I would say that. I knew what would bother my brother, so, since we're all bugging each other, they knew how to get under my skin. And that's the thing, what the
Well, your
way
brother has a PhD
he has a gift.
in biology.
But
I mean, he's
one thing that Robert Greene says is
he knows how to push the buttons real good. He's real good with this, your brother.
one thing is that if you can stay in control of your emotions. Robert Greene actually says that. He says, train yourself not to take matters personally. I think of the Stoics.
Well, the four agreements also.
Also the
Don't
four
take
agreements.
anything personal. That's one of the four
That's
agreements.
one of the four agreements. So
And
it's a Stoic mindset. It's
yes,
the four agreements. And then he says, once you're there, like you said, now you can play with the emotional responses of other people. But you have to get to a point
right,
yourself
right,
where you're not reacting emotionally to everything that's said or done.
correct.
You know, um,
And it takes a lot of character because in the observance of the law, they talk about uh, the gentleman, what's his name? The gentleman that took over the is Ethiopia.
yes,
Was it Sagasi? I get them mixed up all the time.
yeah,
But anyway, he had to wait and bring that the gentleman that was married to the queen out of his natural habitat to react, and it took him years.
yeah.
It didn't happen overnight. This is not something that you go to a meeting and you do something. This was to take over in the late 1920s, to take over Ethiopia. He had been working on this for years.
He gave this guy an order,
Right.
which he was above him. He gave him an order, and then this guy took that personally because pride. And so he said, "Okay, now's my chance." But he gave him the order because he knew all along he wanted to take him out.
Right.
He wanted to revolt against him. So he specifically said, "Hey, go fight these guys."
Which he had nothing against that tribe.
And so that's where it came, where he ended up revolting, but it
Right.
was not on his clock.
Right.
So again, it reminds me of another law we talked about where you put like a time frame on an offer. So you don't have all day to think about this. You don't have all month to year to think about this. This is an offer I'm making you right now. So you set the terms.
Right.
You're in control. Now,
Which
sometimes
is
that doesn't work. We've had situations where they say, "Hey, this offer's good for 24 hours." We're like, a decision won't be made in 24 hours. So, and then they
it's a chess
come
game.
back. It's a
It's a
chess.
chess game
Yeah.
because it depends, what position of power. It's a poker game. And as you and I well know, because we both play poker, the person that has the best hand is not guaranteed to win that pot.
No.
It's how you play that hand
Yeah.
that actually works out best, you know?
Absolutely.
Because whatever somebody else is thinking, if you're in a position of power, for example, I remember putting in one of our offers, hey, you got 48 hours to think about this. Prior to this, it's valid, but after that, my offer will change.
Right.
It's off the table after 48 hours. That puts a lot of pressure on the salesperson,
Okay.
not the realtor, but the person that owns the building, a lot of pressure because they're saying, okay, I've got this. Do I accept this? Or and it depends what position of power you're in.
If the seller's pressed, if the seller doesn't have any other offers, if right?
Right.
But you don't know that when you make that offer.
No.
You have to gauge it based on the information you have.
Right. And if you're following the rules, since we're in real estate,
Uh-huh.
when you get an offer, a lot of times people will ask you, "Do you have an offer?" And you can now say, "Yes, I do." Now you can't get into the pricing or anything like that because you want what's best for, but yes,
Yeah.
we have an offer on the table. So you have an offer on the table that's going to expire in 48 hours, but you don't say that.
Right. Right.
So
You
it's a
only
chess game.
divulge as much as you need to.
As little as you have to.
One of the one of the things in a small scale that reminds me about this, where you're making the other person react or you're kind of getting them off balance, is when somebody says something. We've talked about this. And somebody says something to you, you question them on what they say. Instead of just taking everything that they say as, oh, okay, yeah, this and that, you tell me something. Like, let's say you were to tell me right now, oh, the Roman Empire lasted 1,000 years. Now, I can question you and say, you sure about that? Like, I can question you on that. And if you don't really know it 100%,
You create doubt.
and even if you know it
You
100%,
create doubt.
you create doubt. So it's a way of, and then it could kind of make you a little bit like, oh wait, I'm not sure this and that, right? So it's a way of getting people off balance. Something so simple, by just questioning them on what they say. Say, oh, last week I did this or that. Wait, what? What was that? Are you
Yeah,
sure
what
about
was
that?
that again? Can you please repeat that?
Yeah.
Can you
So
break that down for me?
yeah. Yeah, you question people a little bit more. You don't just take everything they say as face value. You make them explain it a little more. So I thought that was kind of in a small scale, you're you're getting them to react.
And it's definitely a chess game because, for example, I was listening to um, Tucker Carlson interview with Putin, and
Oh yeah,
right off the beginning, right off from the beginning, Putin asked Carlson, "Is this going to be a serious interview, or is this going to be just for show?" I mean, he set the tone as, I'm in command of this interview.
absolutely.
Not, you may be really good at interviewing people, but now you met your man. Because he says, is this going to be a serious interview or is this going to be just for show?
But that question came from Putin because uh, Tucker Carlson asked a question that he was thinking was silly.
Right,
Putin thought that question was silly,
right.
so he said, "I mean, is this a serious interview? Or is this a show?"
Yeah, but how many people you think confront Tucker Carlson like that?
I don't know, but Tucker's
You gotta
response
have,
was, do you know what his response was?
well, he laughed a
He laughed
lot.
it off.
He laughed it off, and sometimes I think that Tucker is a nervous laugh. I don't
He,
know for some reason.
yeah,
I thought that was a nervous laugh.
yeah, he just laughed it off
You know,
because he maybe realized, oh, maybe the question that I asked was a little bit silly.
right,
And then Putin proceeded to explain the history of Ukraine and Russia and all this stuff. And so,
right.
but
And he
yeah,
took his time on
he
it.
definitely checked them.
He sure did.
he,
He did.
he definitely checked them.
And I think that he put the balance of power in that meeting
Yes, from the very
from the
beginning.
very beginning, saying, hey, you're coming in here. He stumped him. I think he genuinely stumped him.
Yeah.
If you look at it, because I don't have time to look at it, I have time to hear it. But I looked at him a little bit, and the body language somewhat changed.
Mm.
You know, you have to maneuver yourself. When you're dealing with some of these people, um, they got the 48 laws of power down,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they don't necessarily need to read the book.
So one. one thing was you get them to act before they're ready.
Right.
I was playing chess with a good buddy, and it was a very close chess match. And it was back and forth, back and forth. We were almost even. And then I realized that he was using his queen, right? Like
A lot.
a lot.
Oh,
Like that
okay.
was he felt very comfortable with the queen. It was all over the chessboard, right? And so I thought, what if I sacrifice my queen to take his queen? So I did that, right? And when I killed his queen, by killing my queen, he was so thrown off by the fact that I sacrificed my queen. He would never sacrifice his queen because that was his main piece. You got to be good at playing all the pieces. But anyways, when I did that, the game changed, and I forced him to use other pieces that he wasn't as good with, and this and that, and I won that match.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Good for you.
but it's noticing. I got him to, let's say, to act before he was ready. He wanted to use his queen to make his attacks, and now I changed that game. And so whether it's in the game of chess or the game of life, you can
Sure.
get somebody to maybe make a decision or react before they're ready, and then they're not, like, if they were going to attack you, that attack isn't as strong potentially because it's not on their time frame. It's on yours now.
Right.
So yeah, this is an interesting one.
I love this. And
Yeah.
these laws have been in existence forever.
Yeah.
It's not like Robert Greene discovered them. Well, it's not like he created them. That's a better word.
Mm-hmm.
He discovered them in his search for knowledge, and he's a huge history buff. And
Yeah.
my respects to him. I mean, the level of research that Robert Greene does
Oh,
is
tremendous.
extraordinary to the point that it affects his health.
Yeah.
But I grew up listening to my dad saying, in Spanish, Río revuelto, ganancia de pescadores. It's an old, old Spanish saying,
Hmm.
you know? And that's exactly how this thing starts off. You shake up the waters so that the fish come up, and then, they're forced to come up. And I kid you not, since I was a kid, my dad would say, that saying, Río
Interesting.
revuelto, ganancia de pescadores. And the translation is, if the river is turbulent, the fishermen win, kind of thing, right?
Right.
That's the translation. Well, this is exactly how this law starts
Yeah.
off, you
Yeah.
know?
Stir
And
up
so
waters.
is the fact that these power moves have been in existence forever. The genius and the brilliance of Robert Greene is identifying them and putting them in a book. And now people
Labeling
like
them.
you and I, laymen, can read it and
Yeah.
benefit from it and realize when we're being played by somebody else. You know,
Yeah.
some people don't need the book, like Putin. I mean, I'm telling you, he stumped.
Yeah. Yeah. Anger and emotion are strategically counterproductive. How many people and how many times can you think of yourself? I can think of myself reacting emotionally or in anger to something that was done.
Oh, sure. I think we've all,
It's counterproductive.
it's counterproductive.
You got to always stay calm and objective. That's easier said than done.
Sure.
But in terms of your enemies, if you can get them to react,
Oh, yeah.
um, he says, stir the insecure into action by impugning their manhood and by dangling the prospect of an easy victory before their faces. It's like, an impugn, I didn't know what that was. Impugn is to dispute the truth, validity, or honesty of a statement, to call into question. So you call into question their manhood.
Wow.
So, yeah, this is interesting. I thought of poker, I thought of chess. Um, the the angrier they become, the less control they have. So I think for me, this is more like, when am I reacting emotionally? When, in what situations am I, is somebody doing something to me that I'm, like somebody made a comment to me some time ago, it still is lingering, that comment. So they got under my skin.
Well, it's okay. Well, I mean, they they were able to do that.
Yeah,
They were successful.
correct.
You
Yeah.
know, I think it happens that to all of us. It also depends on your frame of mind at that moment. Okay, um, your attitude,
Yeah.
but your frame of mind at that moment, because you could be in. I was listening to Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson says, "Do you think that did you for a second? Do you think that I like to get up at 3 in the morning and go run in the cold and then come back, or 4 in the morning? It was just super early, and it was freezing out. And he went and ran, and he went and lifted, and he came back and had to take a break, and then ate something. And I mean, he says, no, I didn't like it. You did it because your discipline overrides any other emotion that you may have, because you have a goal far away that you are pushing for, and that's what's carrying you. And so, you know, um, your frame of mind is extremely important. If you
Mm.
get hit with something and you're not ready for battle, it can potentially affect you, I think, much more than if you're kind of ready for the hit, you
On
know?
your toes.
Yeah. And Mike Tyson says it a lot. He was interviewed too, and um, he's just interesting human being, this Mike Tyson. He said, because somebody said, hey, they said this about you. Doesn't that bother you? And his reply was, when I realize that I'm not important, it doesn't bother me. But if I stay on the track that I'm a very important person, oh yeah, it would bother me. But when I realize that the truth of the matter is that I'm not all that important, no, it doesn't bother me. It
Wow.
just runs off my back. And that's a strong lesson to tell people out there. And he's in a forum where every time he speaks, thousands and thousands of people hear him.
Yeah.
He's telling you, look, don't take life so seriously. Don't, you know, there's a lot of things that require your attention and your full-fledged effort to fix. But you know what? At the end of the day, don't take it so seriously, because in 6 months from now, it's not going to be important, and the
Hmm.
lifetime is short, you know? But this law is tremendous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anger and emotion don't help you anywhere. They don't. I saw and look, I was preview a couple of weeks ago or 3 weeks ago to a general contractor doing a job on a roof, and he got so upset because he forgot a special drill or whatever. Okay, and he just made his job so much worse. He was so upset up there on that roof that he was misplacing the screws that he had
Mm.
bought for the location. All kind all kinds of stuff was going wrong.
He's not thinking straight.
He's not thinking straight. He let it get to him so badly,
Yeah.
you know, um, that it just makes it work, and it shows how weak you are. And
Yes.
for the record, that job was not done properly. That was a messy job. He had to come back and redo it. And the second time, he was in a better frame of mind.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, the owner of the building told him, "Hey, you know what? Let's take a break here.
Yeah.
This is not coming out right." Because the owner of the building also knew, um, about the thing that he was getting done, and so he said, "You know what? I don't like the way it's coming out. Why don't you come back tomorrow?" And you know,
Yeah.
so if you let anger and emotion
Hmm.
get the best of you, it's not going to work
Yeah,
out.
you'll lose.
You lose.
Yeah. Yeah. Robert Greene in this law says, keep your head straight, something like that. Keep your head on
Level.
while they lose theirs,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And that's how you're in a control position. And in terms of negotiating, you'll win because
and
you
through
are in control.
yeah, and throughout history, it's easy to get under somebody's skin because you don't necessarily have to poke the person.
Yeah.
You can poke a son or a daughter,
Yeah.
okay? And I'm here to tell you that my mom, that's what triggered my mom.
Mm.
If she saw that one of her
Wanna.
grandkids or one of her kids was being played with or messed with, whether it was another family member, maybe not that close, a cousin, a distant cousin or something, doing a play trick on one of the family that was very, very tight, and um, that set her off completely. And she would turn into like a wound, when they say that a wounded beast is more ferocious than, one that's not hurt.
Mm-hmm.
They'll come at you with a vengeance once they're hurt, right? That's what would trigger my mom, and it was vicious.
Wow.
And so through history, you know, I
Yeah,
can't
don't mess
remember.
with a mother, like with a cub, a bear cub.
There you go.
Don't mess with a mother.
Yeah.
She'll
And
do
and
whatever.
kings in the old days, they would mess with the king's son or daughters or something, and there would be wars,
Oh yeah.
especially in Europe, you know. So yeah, you mess around. There's some things that will trigger you. So even being aware of it, it's good to be aware of it,
Yeah.
but it may not help if it really hits you at the core. You're gonna lash out at somebody. You just need to know that you should try to stay in control.
You should try to. And in that moment, I saw something from Robert Greene recently, and I think it had to do more so with his laws of human nature.
Okay.
But it said that it talked about human behavior, and he says nobody does something just once. So the person that comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I reacted that way. That's not like me. I never do that. I never done that." It's not true, because we all do things more than once. We all are creatures of habit. We all have that behavior like established in us. So the person that comes to you and says it was a one-off thing, it's not true.
So what he says in that is that they showed the true colors.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
really showed in that moment who they really were. You have to take that into account when you review the entire thing, because you're dealing with that's the true person.
True essence of the person
E-
when they are angry, when they are emotional, they show their true colors. When they
Exactly.
weren't in control,
Right.
because prior to that they had a mask on and they were showing you another side. But there's no such thing as just a one time, according to Robert Greene. I believe it.
So do I.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the man is a wealth of knowledge and deserves tremendous respect for all the research that the man does.
Anything else you want to throw in?
We had a podcast where you were saying to me something like, you come home and you take your mask off.
Yeah.
And then I said to you, yeah, and then you put another one.
Yeah.
Do you remember what law that was?
No, I don't. I don't. But yeah, you were saying that, when
And
you
I said,
come.
I hope I don't get in trouble with that.
Yeah. Did you get in trouble?
Well, my wife
She
made a
didn't.
couple comments on it.
She
Well, what
wasn't
mask do
fond
you
of
have
that.
on today?
um.
What mask do you have on today? And I go,
the-
no, I don't have any mask. It's me.
Yeah, I don't know, because all of these talk about wearing a mask to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure which one. If it was be royal, act like a king to be treated like one, or uh, think
Anyway,
as you like
we'll
but
figure
behave
it
like
out.
others. Yeah, I'm not sure
But
which one.
another thing we should do is thank our viewers, because our subscribers are increasing. So thank you, and thank you for the comments. There were
Yeah.
a lot of very nice comments on the earthquake and fire preparedness that Dan came out and spoke on. A lot of nice stuff, and it's actually moved some people to go buy and prepare. I had texts from some people saying, "Hey, look, I went to the store and I got all these things, and I've got the earthquake wrench and this
Yeah.
and that." You too?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, thank you to everybody listening.
Yeah.
And
Share it,
subscribing, like, subscribe, and
please.
we're continuing to grow it and we're enjoying it and we're trying to improve it. Every day we're looking at how can we continue to improve and have fun at the same time, because
Right.
this is like you've said it before, this is making us better people.
It really
It's
is.
making us become more strategic. It's making us revisit things, and hopefully those listening are getting value too.
Well, there's just a lot of nice comments. For the most part, the comments are nice, except one that said, "This is the most ridiculous podcast I've ever seen in my life."
Yeah,
So we get some of those too.
yeah.
And that's all right.
That's okay.
That's okay. But for the most part, it's been cool.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.